As Ben said, my name is Greg Pugh. I started out as a Flash animation instructor in State College, got into print advertising, web advertising, moved to Georgia, taught Flash animation again, got into Flash development, which turned into mobile development, and that's what I do now. So really I just started making apps because of Flash. They give you that ability. So instead of just me sitting up here and talking about myself, I tried to show you a video of different apps I've created using Flash, Objective-C, and other methods.
Thank you for having me again. I grew up in this area. I went to North Pocono High School. For those of you that are in this area, usually, the northern part is, usually rivals, the down here. So, I went to North Pocono, and then I went to Penn State University, where I wanted to go to Penn State since I was probably about this big, and I had a great experience out there. I'm actually missing the football game right now, which I will be getting to as soon as I'm done talking here. But while at Penn State, my very last semester there, the bus company in State College, for those of you who have been out there, is CATA, and they came out with a GPS real-time information platform where students and faculty could go to a website and look at the buses in real time, which is awesome because it gets really cold in State College as it does here, so everyone hates waiting outside. To reduce the amount of time waiting outside, see where the buses are moving on Google Maps, on the website was really cool. But I was like, who's gonna be sitting in the library and then run out to the bus stops? I'm like, wouldn't this be awesome if we could do this in a mobile app? Now this was January of 2009, 6 months after the App Store launched on iPhone. So it was still very new, and I was like, well, this would be awesome. So I went to my best friend at the time, Andrew Herman, and we were out getting beers on like a Monday night in early March, and I was like, dude, you know more about this, this development thing. I've dabbled in it. Could we do this? And he was like, oh yeah, if we get it in this information and all this different stuff, and it was way over my head. But 3 months later, we had a prototype iPhone app that we built together. Went to the bus company, before we finished it, they loved it. So at that time, we were like, all right, let's pass on our full-time jobs. Let's run with this. So fast forward a little bit after that. Now we have Apic, which is a mobile app development company. So many of you later will be listening to Chris Jones, who will be in here to speak. He is an investor in our company. We had, the three of us are partners together in Apic, and we build apps for all different size companies all over the world. We've done a lot of work in Nigeria. We've obviously done a lot of work here in America, and we've done everything, kind of across the board. The one thing that we have done internally that wasn't for a client was a game called Space Invaders. Now, I'm sure many of you have played Space Invaders, the old school game. Yes, of course. Well, we married that to Facebook. So Andrew, my business partner, had an idea, this was years ago, and we didn't have the resources to develop it, but about this time last year, we were developing, this game where basically on your iPad, you download it, you log into your Facebook account, and as soon as you do that, you hit play, and instead of all aliens coming down the screen at you, it's all of your Facebook friends. So you get to shoot all your Facebook friends. So it's a lot of fun. We launched that in December of last year. We had some great press. TechCrunch, for those of you familiar with that blog, gave us a nice article, which was awesome. And then the Gizmodo, which is a rival big tech blog, called us App of the Day. Awesome, awesome for us. It was a lot of fun. I never forget when we heard that we got that kind of coverage. I was like, you did like that feeling of just like, holy shit, like this is cool. So continuing early this year, we had an idea for PathMap. So when Chris invested in our company back in March, basically the model that we wanted to create was, let's build a service company, let's build apps for a lot of different clients, understand the mobile space, and then we could build technology out of the needs that we have, which will suffice all other mobile developers out there. So that's what PathMap is. PathMap is a mobile A/B testing platform. Now, to kind of bring that into layman terms, A/B testing is a very simple way to test two different designs of a screen. So say if Greg and I started a company and we needed all of you to go to our site and sign up, we would, optimally 100% conversion for us would be perfect. So every time you guys went to that sign up page on our site, every single one of you actually went through the sign up process and hit the button and gave you our email. Well, that doesn't happen, on every, website, every mobile app. So companies and app owners and website owners are always looking for ways to increase conversion, because conversion usually leads directly into monetization. So long story short, so A/B testing has been on the web now for over a decade, but it's been really lacking in the mobile space, and we saw this as a huge opportunity for us to build this technology. We did, and we just launched the company about 4 weeks ago at again a TechCrunch. It's called TechCrunch Disrupt. It's this awesome tech conference that they hold twice a year. This one was in San Francisco, and we were picked out of one of 28 companies to launch on stage out of about 850 applications. And it's one of the best, if not the best, place to launch a tech company. So that was really cool. We had huge feedback from that. We have companies like AOL, Living Social, the game Cut the Rope, if you guys have played it, and a couple other great companies already very interested and already signed up as beta testers for that, which is awesome. So as you can see, I live every single day of my life in the mobile space. I absolutely love it, and now we'll answer some questions about mobile and how it pertains to every one of you guys.
Okay, guys. So to start off our mobile panel, What is one mobile app that you cannot live without for updating your blog or social media?
Just want to go. I'll go first on the odds. We'll just do it like that.
All right.
Cool. So for our blog for App Again Path Map, which we don't give nearly enough attention to, we host it by Tumblr. So the Tumblr iPhone app is incredible. I can basically do everything right from there. If I want to do a post, is everyone familiar with Tumblr in this room? So really, there's Tumblr and WordPress. Those are the best two places to go to really start, you know, kind of a free blog that you can just host on their site, which is great. We decided to use Tumblr, which just happened. I'm not really sure why. I think Tumblr is a little bit more user-friendly, so people who aren't as experienced on the web, I think Tumblr would be a great place to go. That's spelled T-U-M-B-L-R. There's no E. But yeah, that iPhone app is great. I do everything from there.
Great.
I use the WordPress app because I have actually 3 blogs that are all in WordPress, and you can use it on your iPad or your iPhone. It can give you your visitor statistics. If you use Word ads to monetize your blog, you can check those. You can post from there. You can upload pictures directly from your device as well, which is handy if you blog about, you know, something where you're out shopping, about like fashion. You see a dress, you can take a picture, upload it to your WordPress blog, and have it all in one piece of software. So.
What about for social media? Do you guys use any specific apps for social media?
I use the Facebook and Twitter apps. I know there's a lot of clients out there for Twitter that you can use, but unfortunately those are getting, you know, more and more pushed aside by Twitter. They don't love, you know, people using their API as much anymore. So I use those apps. I know a lot of people use Hootsuite to manage all of their social media, but as far as I'm concerned, I think the native apps for the individual platforms are the way to go.
Right.
Yeah, I usually use the Facebook app, Twitter app. I used to use Twitterific, wasn't as great. Even the Facebook app was a little glitchy, especially with iOS 6 that was just released. I had some issues with it, but I don't know, it just seems like a multi-billion-dollar company could make a better app for iPad, but right now it's the best one. So.
Okay. So what happened with Draw Something? This was a big hit, and then it just sort of completely died. So what's the secret, in your opinion, to a successful game app?
I would say to keep it fresh. The problem with Draw Something is it's always sending drawings to friends. So they try to like do special things like Halloween colors, and now it's sponsored by Lexus. So now you get like a Lexus color pack or whatever. I think one company that did really well was Rovio, because everyone knows Angry Birds, and now they just made Bad Piggies. It's the same exact characters that everybody loves that they made millions off of, but now they just released a whole new game type. So instead of it getting stale where you're making games where you're just flinging birds at stuff, now you have a whole new game concept, same characters, same company. And I think really that's what you need to do to stay competitive in the market. Instead of just recycling a stale idea, is to be innovative and proactive.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Going back to Draw Something, what the front-facing public kind of idea now of Draw Something is it completely failed, which for those of you who know, Zynga, the huge company that does Farmville and all those, acquired Draw Something from a very small startup that made a lot of money off of Draw Something. Now, what happens is, and this typically happens with games, is that ones that really take off, you see that hockey stick growth right in the beginning, which is great. And then you're always, unless you're like a Rovio and Angry Birds, but for the most games that even have that huge initial takeoff, they're not really monetizing their users a whole lot in the beginning. And that pretty much goes across the board for all startups. So it's really important for games like that to get huge user adoption in the beginning. And then as they start to fall off, these companies understand how to monetize each individual user more. So Zynga saw that, and even though there was something like a 27% drop off of users within the first month of them acquiring Draw Something, their business model knows how to, triple, quadruple, even, more than that, monetize each individual user. And even though after the hockey stick growth, users will fall off over time, they're still monetizing the users they have left even more, and they're actually making more money. And by doing that, eventually it'll decline, but by that time they'll already have a million other ideas. So that's usually kind of what happens with games.
Okay. Now, is it a better strategy to develop an app or have a mobile-friendly website? Or should you have both?
Definitely both in a perfect world. There's two answers to this. If you're funded and you have funding behind you, go to the app right out of the gate, because that'll give you the best user experience, no questions asked. For those of you who watch Zuckerberg's interview at TechCrunch Disrupt that I was at, basically threw HTML5 under the bus, still for the near future. Not saying that it won't catch up, but Andrew, my partner, and I have been saying HTML5 is still going to take a long time to even come close to what the user experience is for native apps. And some might argue that it's actually getting further away. We don't have to get into that discussion. But if you're bootstrapping and you don't have a whole lot of money, definitely go towards a web app. There's a lot of tools out there. And again, for a blog, what's the main thing that your users want from you is content. So, you need to display that content in a great manner on the mobile devices, and you don't have to really worry about user experience too much more than that. That's why blogging is easy and it's nice. So as far as that goes, web app first. Once you really get user adoption, you get more money going. Then a native app will offer you more options down the road.
Okay, great.
I agree. If you don't have the funding, you definitely want an optimized blog, so that way people can stay in touch with you. So, not everyone's always going to be in front of their computer in an airport or on the bus. You want them to be able to sign on to their phone, keep up with your blog. But if you do have the funding, like Andrew said, you really want the app. However, that's usually not always the case.
Okay. So what can a blogger do to make his or her blog more friendly to mobile visitors?
For what I do, since I use WordPress, they actually have an option for mobile on your WordPress settings. And also, you can let your users know that if they're using like an iPad or an iPhone, there's actually an option where you can save your website as a native app on the home page. So here's mine. Just that little WordPress thing. And then I specifically made this splash page so anyone that has an iPad sees this splash screen. Whereas if you view it on the computer, you just see this screen initially. So it's just something a little extra to say, thanks for supporting my site on the home screen. You have a question?
Yeah, if you need funding for apps or whatever that you want to do, then you just go to Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and then if your idea is good enough, the customers are actually going to fund your project, and they're pretty much going to buy it, and you will have the money to make a good product.
Yeah, I've seen actually a couple cases where Kickstarter has helped apps get started up. That's definitely a good way to go if you can't find investors initially, because that way it's just telling the customers if you want to see this app.
It's not like a bonus, because you literally getting customers that are going to support you and already giving you money before the project is even finished. So that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Plus
definitely.
that, and plus maybe sponsors or somebody that willing to help you, that will make the app even better.
I think the only thing you do have to keep in mind with Kickstarter is that you have to kind of exceed what you need, because Kickstarter does take a percentage of it, because that's how they make their money. And also when you give out prizes, so if it's an app, you can just say, hey, well, you get the app for free. But a lot of times you say, give me $1,000 to get the app and a T-shirt and whatever. So you have to keep in mind that those T-shirts are going to cost you something. So if you need $20,000, you might need to raise like $35,000 for all the costs and the percentage of Kickstarter.
But that also has like a good marketing way to do it, in my opinion. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. I mean, I don't have any experience directly with those platforms. He brings up some good points. There's also a lot more hooks in the water. It's not as easy as it seems, and the success rate on those are actually pretty low, because there's a lot that just get buried that you don't even see on the homepage and everything. So just to give a little bit of reality to it, it's still very hard if you're trying to raise a decent amount of money on those without a great idea. But going back to what he said, responsive websites are really the way to go. What that means is a web browser, whether it's on mobile or the PC, like these desktop applications, you pretty much design it once, and the CSS will just refactor for whatever screen you're on. And that basically just mirrors what Greg said. So I know there's a lot of, even WordPress sponsors a lot of themes now that very easily put your stuff into web-friendly for both tablets and phones in addition to the web. So responsive sites are definitely a way to help your users.
Okay. Are there any tools a blogger can use to measure his or her presence in mobile, or whether or not, are there any tools that a blogger can use to measure his or her presence in mobile?
So I'm assuming you're asking just type of analytics wise. Yeah. So there are definitely a lot of tools in analytics, depending on whether you have a web app or an actual mobile app. There's different tools, but Google Analytics always kind of seems to be a leader in this space. There's definitely other tools for web apps, which again I'm not as familiar with because I live my day-to-day life in native mobile apps, and there you have companies like Flurry and AppSolar and Mixpanel who offer great insight and analytics to your users. And that's where another reason where PathMap kind of was built out of, because a lot of these companies give you a really good understanding of who is using your apps, and they fell short on how people are using your apps, and this is where PathMap kind of came along with the A/B testing and really helping app owners understand how to increase those conversions, how people are interacting with everything.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with Andrew. I don't really use a lot of blogging analytics to track statistics because I do so many native. I use App Annie, which is a free service. Every morning they send you an email saying, this is how many people download your apps, if it's featured on the App Store, how much revenue generated. As far as like tracking mobile visitors to your blog page, I personally don't use any.
Should bloggers have a mobile app for their blog?
In my opinion, I would say it really depends on your blog. Like if you're just blogging about your everyday life, I don't think you necessarily need an app for it to like try to fund or learn coding to make an app just so people can keep track of what you're eating for breakfast. But if it's something like if you're into making games, you definitely should have an app. Just and then to back that up, have even like a mobile optimized site to support the app. So it really depends on your philosophy, I would say.
It's all about critical mass and user adoption. Right out of the gate, there's no really reason to develop a mobile app. I mean, there's no reason to spend tens of thousands of dollars to build your own app from the ground up without having any users or any traction. So spend all of your time using the free tools to build your blog, make your content really good, grow your user base, and then once you understand how to turn those users into profit monetization, which Chris I know will be talking about later, then you start looking into a mobile app and growing your reach. So it's definitely a step 2 or 3 in the process in my mind.
Okay. Are there any other mobile apps out there that are useful for bloggers besides some of the ones that we've talked about so far?
Right, so Tumblr, WordPress, pretty straightforward there. There's an app called Mobify, which I would tell everyone to check out. It's Mobify. And I'm sure everyone in this room has heard of Instagram. Instagram is a great way to engage your users visually. And there's also platforms like Viddy, V-I-D-D-Y, and SocialCam, which is basically Instagram, but for actual videos, which is a great way because sometimes people just don't want to read and they just want to watch, or look at a picture. So those are great ways to engage with your audience as well.
Right?
Yeah, I usually just use the WordPress app and the Instagram app because Instagram's just like Facebook except without the words, which is kind of nice. Because I know a lot of times when I get alert that one of my favorite companies has a new blog post, the first thing I do is just kind of skim through and look at the pictures because that's the most appealing part. So with Instagram, you just be like, hey, here it is, and then well, now that I'm interested, let me check out the blog.
Okay. How can bloggers best utilize mobile technology to grow their audiences?
I would say right now, HTML5 always helps just to have a website that actually appears on a mobile device and doesn't appear fragmented. So which I think most of the blog sites that you use now, they're all HTML5 optimized, or at least mobile device optimized. So that'd be my advice for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough question because mobile was not built to help bloggers, really. Mobile is really strong at giving us content on our devices wherever we go, which that helps bloggers. But you know, it's a lot easier to follow your own blogs by just going to a URL. Except for the huge blogs, no one really has their own mobile app because that requires someone to go to the App Store and search for that. So I would say at this point, HTML5, like Greg said, is still definitely the way to go to hit your mass audience. But you know, at this point, unless someone already in this room has thousands of followers on their blog or more, and everyone's kind of starting out, you got to set up a web.
Okay. Now, what about content? How can bloggers best utilize mobile technology to improve their content strategy?
Putting together content, I don't think mobile changes anything because every single blogger has their own niche and they're their own quote-unquote expert in that field. So as far as generating the content, I don't think it really changes a whole lot. As far as delivering the content, this is kind of in the theme of what Greg and I have been talking about, is it's very, very important to deliver the content to your users in the most readable fashion on the devices that they have. And there's tools that are coming out more and more, to help with this.
And let's see, banking, social networking, and gaming. It seems like we can do pretty much anything with our phones. So what might be some of the next big concepts or activities hitting the mobile space?
I was actually thinking about this morning because I was looking at the iPad and I was thinking, well, right now I can watch television shows on it, I can watch movies, you can make video conference calls through it, I can use it as a computer. You don't really need a computer anymore. So I was thinking, what can the mobile device do next? Like, what's the big step? And I don't know, I think we're starting to exhaust it because besides refrigerating your food and cooking it for you, like all your electronics in your house can be replaced right here in your tablet or your iPhone. But then I saw how Google and California just legalized cars that drive themselves. So I started thinking, well, that's probably where tablets and phones are going to be integrated next. You're going to pop your device in your smart car there. It will drive you where you need to be. You can watch your television over here on the windshield. I think that's going to be the next big thing, honestly, because right now, even Apple's slowing down on innovation. Since Steve Jobs died, we've got the iPad 3, slightly faster, slightly better graphics, iPhone 5, let's stretch it out. So there's really nothing we're doing yet. So, and then you have like the Android phones that can touch and send information, but that's Android, and that's kind of a scattered market right now. So I don't know where else we can go from the future right now, except it's going to be something completely new, I think.
Whenever you answer this question, there's always I think we're just going to do questions at the end, so you just want to hold your
I
questions.
just wanted to comment on holograms. That was a disappointment that they haven't gotten a hologram keyboard, so however you buy it, it would have been a big plus if Apple would have implemented that.
Yeah, on that, and this is not the road I was going to go down, but this kind of prompted me. I studied materials science and engineering at Penn State, and when I was there, I did a project on what's called an electroactive polymer, which is this awesome technology and actual science where we can, so imagine this, on the keyboards in front of you right now, whenever you type, you get a feedback from that keyboard, right? You have to actually press the keyboard down. So you get your fingers tell your brain that you press that key. When we do it on an iPad sitting here in front of me, we're just hitting a screen. So we really don't know if we hit the specific button or we actually hit one or we're in the middle. Where what an electroactive polymer could do, if that's embedded into the screen, they could actually use electromagnetic waves to send from the screen through our finger to our brain to tell us that it feels like a physical keyboard even though it's just a flat piece of glass, which is really cool, and that type of technology could go really far, and I think that's going to combat holograms because holograms still can't give you that type of feedback. So it'll be interesting to see which one kind of takes off there. But going back, what's up?
Can we just mix it, holograms and that technology altogether?
No, because you still need a physical, you need something to touch that holds those electromagnetic waves to give you back. Holograms won't be able to do that, as far as I know. I mean, maybe, I really don't know. But I think that's still a little bit far away. I know Apple is working with companies to work on that stuff. But NFC, which we'll talk about a little later, is huge. Augmented reality is going to be huge within the next couple of years, and it's already starting to. So virtual reality is like playing a video game where you are completely immersed in a new world. Where augmented reality is, for those of you who watch football in here, whenever there's a first down line, that yellow line on the field, that's augmented reality. That's taking a component of virtual and mixing it with real life, and that's where you get that augmented mix. And now we're seeing this a lot in mobile because we take these devices with us everywhere. And a place or an app that's using it a lot now is Yelp, with a feature called a monocle, where you can literally walk down the street of New York City holding up your phone, and instead of having to look at a list of all the places, you can literally just scan, and the places on Yelp will just pop up right through your camera on your screen. Like, it's crazy, and this type of technology is really going to be taking off. And finally, I feel like devices are really going to be integrated more with the way we interact with and watch TV. It'll be really interesting to see what happens over the next 6 to 12 months if Apple comes out with like their own TV completely. And these devices, our phone and our iPads, are really becoming a second device when we're taking in content from a TV. So it's like I'm a huge sports fan, so I'm going to use this all the time, but if I'm watching football, and right now we could follow the Twitter streams while we're watching football, but that's not good enough, and there's companies out there now who are developing apps to literally take us into the content that we're watching through our devices that we're holding in our laps, and it's really cool. I'm excited to see.
So in other words, you're saying that all this technology is going to be linked together in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Even now Microsoft's tablets for the Halo 4, as you're playing Halo 4 and it comes out, your Microsoft tablet will have feedback in real time of what you're doing. And as you look at something in Halo, on your little tablet, it will say, hey, tap this for more information on that little pillar you see out there. They'll bring it up as your Master Chief's guy's running around. Which I think that's going to be way too much doing the tablet and the controller, but...
And maybe your friend will help.
Yeah.
Okay. How can businesses best leverage the mobile tools available to them today to create influential messages, enhance meaningful relationships, and build communities? What tools and mobiles should businesses be using?
This is me or you?
And do both.
This is where social really comes into play here, because what the web on desktop computers can't do is come with us. All of us are carrying these devices around now, and a feature that's really going to be taking off is targeted, geolocated advertising. Now, this is something that the businesses are really starting to adopt, which is really, really cool. So think about going to the casino. So say Mohegan Sun comes out with an app in the near future, because I know they're working on one right now, and a part of that has a geofence. So they literally, in the technology, will build a geofence, so say a 2-mile radius around the casino. So anyone who's inside of that 2-mile radius that has the app downloaded will get pushed a special coupon for that day that they can only redeem in the next, say, hour. So that really doesn't apply to someone who has a Mohegan Sun app who's on vacation in Puerto Rico, because it doesn't matter. So what's important right now for mobile is targeted push notifications, because too many, we all know, that will turn them off immediately on our phones. Because if it's too much noise, we don't want it, and then if we turn it off, then we lose the small percentage that we do want. So businesses need to walk the line of really understanding how to geolocate and target this type of advertising, and we can do that using mobile technology.
And adding on to that, it's very, I don't know, I think a lot of businesses just say, well, hey, Mohegan Sun has an app, they have a Facebook, they have a Twitter, hey, I'm a chair factory, I need that too. So they're like, I don't need to follow your little Facebook page on building wooden chairs, I don't want to see your wooden chair app. It's like, you really have to think about your target audience and if this is going to benefit you before you start dumping money into building apps and getting in social media. a lot of times it does make sense if it's a fashion blog or if it's mobile or something where people consume a lot. But, you know, you don't need to put on your billboard, hey, lamp factory, follow us on Facebook, because you might get a sale, you know, that one time in your life you need to buy this lamp. So I think it's really important to consider when you want to advertise to people and how.
Do you see e-readers like the Nook and the Kindle Fire as having a major impact on the mobile space?
I think right now the Amazon Kindle Fire is the closest thing that's ever competed to the iPad. Basically because they have the same marketing strategy as Apple, whereas they're kind of a closed off company. So if you make an iPad app, you just don't get it on the App Store. It goes through Apple, they approve it, they say, well, you know, we want this on our App Store or we don't. And that's what Amazon did. You send them an app, they approve it or they disapprove it. And that way, as a consumer, you know, well, at least Apple's backing me on this. I have some kind of security that it's backed by this company. Same thing with Amazon. If it's a bad quality app, I can appeal to them and get my money back. With like Google tablets, it's kind of like the Wild West. Any 5-year-old can pay $25 and throw an app on the App Store, and then that's it. So there's not a lot of money in Google tablets right now as far as app-wise, even though they do have a lot of features that are better than Apple products. And then like Nook, I think people still see as readers. So people with Nooks just think, oh, you know, I can read my books on there and then occasionally do like a crossword puzzle app. So I think right now, the biggest mobile space ones would be Amazon and Apple, in my opinion.
I would first say disclaimer to my answer would be that I'm a huge Apple fan in general, so I might be biased. I'd like to put that out there, but I've never owned a Nook, I've never owned a Kindle Fire. My perception, and I like to believe that this is the majority perception, is that the Nook and Kindle Fire are here as far as across the board functionality, and the iPad is like on the next floor. Because these two devices are getting a little bit away from it, but really focused on e-readers, like you said. And I think they have a market there. I think the price point is great for the people who only want tablets to do that stuff. But as far as businesses adopting, like if a business wants to buy a tablet and develop an app for their entire sales team, they're not going to buy, you know, a Nook. It's just not good enough. It can't do. It doesn't have the extreme functionality of what an iPad can do. And I think as far as businesses go, I think those two tablets have a long way to go to catch up to the iPad.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of buzz happening around near field communication, or NCF. How do you see this technology altering the way that we do business, if at all? And when do you foresee NCF usage hitting critical mass?
So this technology is really, really cool, in theory. I have a wallet that's in my back pocket at all times, and you know, my chiropractor screams at me all the time because I have it in my back pocket, and you know, it's clunky, it's something else I have to carry around, I don't want to lose it. So if we could, the more and more that we could embed into this device, because we're always going to carry it around with us, is really cool in theory. Now that obviously comes with security issues and all that other stuff, which you know we don't have to dive into too much right now. But for those of you who have iOS 6, there's an app called Passport, which is not directly doing NFC, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And I think we're going to need to take baby steps to bring the masses into using our phones for actual payment. I think the Starbucks app was a huge, huge step in the right direction. For those of you who know, right now I can basically link a gift card to my Starbucks app, and I could go into Starbucks and literally just pay for everything that I'm using right there with the barcode on the mobile app, and then I could have it automatically set up so my credit card on file, whenever I go below $10 or $15 on my gift card, it'll automatically charge my credit card. So that's great for me as a consumer, and it's great for Starbucks because you know you have that constant reloading of the gift card. So as long as the consumer is aware of how much they're spending, I think it's a win-win. But I think it's the steps like that, it's the steps like Passport, where I could, my girlfriend David back there, her and I bought movie tickets on Fandango on the app a couple nights ago. Right from the Fandango app, I took our movie tickets and exported them into Passbook, and we drove up to Cinemark, and as soon as we drove up to Cinemark, immediately my phone gave me a notification of saying, hey, listen, you know, I know that you have 2 movie tickets for tonight in your Passbook, you know, right on the lock screen. I unlocked it, and boom, I went right to the teller and gave her my phone and said, give me my tickets. So that's, you know, so that's really, really cool. I think as we go further, like using these devices for actually working as our wallet, I think we're getting there.
Can I ask a question off of that? Like I have the Dunkin' Donuts app on my phone, but they said the latest iPhone doesn't have that NFC technology. But what's the difference between that technology and the same features we seem to have with the Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts app? Is there a difference or?
So right now, there is. So right now, the NFC requires hardware. What Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks are doing right now is simply displaying a QR code that that they need a scanner to actually scan that barcode. And so there's no difference if I printed out that barcode or displayed it on my iPad and their scanner read it. So like that's why I said we're stepping in the right direction. Where with NFC, there's actual technology embedded in the phone that will communicate with the cash registers in different, like it might be a bump or it might be something that communicate with each
To
other.
eliminate the scan, in other words.
Right, right. I mean, I'm right there, right?
Yeah, and like small scales, like I don't know if you saw the Google Android commercial that makes fun of the people standing in line for the iPhone 5, but they just touch their phones together and they transfer information, something like that. But like Andrew said, it has to be baby steps. You can't just say, okay, everyone get rid of your wallets and rely on your phone. Like, well, now I lost my phone. Well, now I just lost, you know, my bank accounts, all my money. So it has to be very small baby steps. And Google's kind of like on the right way, but honestly, not to talk bad against Android or anything, but I think unless Apple adopts that same kind of technology, it's not going to be widespread. Because you can't just have like Google users be able to like touch stuff and then Apple users have to scan things. It's going to be like a Blu-ray versus HD DVD war. They're going to have to, one's either have to win or come together and make a new technology. So right now, Passbook's probably in the lead, I'd say.
Okay, well, we only have a few more minutes, so I'm going to just ask one more question, and then we'll open it up to the floor. So for the last question, we've seen search engines put measures into place to personalize the searching experience. Is the same thing happening in mobile, and if so, how?
I actually just read an article on this because when the App Store first opened, you know, there's only so many apps, and there's only so many good games, and you would hear about them word of mouth, or they just be on the front page. But now that everyone can get into mobile, and it's so accessible for anybody that knows somebody how to program, or there's apps or software you don't even have to know how to program, you can make your own apps. SEO is extremely important in the mobile sphere now. You should have a good marketing web page, support page, whatever. And now they're even saying when you have the idea for your app and you have it laid out, you need to already start on your marketing strategy for SEO. So before you're like, oh yeah, you even start putting down the code, you're like, okay, here's my idea. I know it's going to be a winner. How do I market it? Let's get that website ready. Let's start getting the Facebook page, the Twitter. Let's start blogging about it and get it out there. So that way you're already building up some steam for it while you're programming it. Because before you could just put out an app, like, yeah, I know it's an awesome app. It'll make me $1 million at some point. Now people aren't even going to find it because there's like 6 million apps that are just like it that you can get for free. So why am I going to pay you $1 for it?
SEO, for those of you who don't know, is search engine optimization. What the term now is ASO, which is App Store optimization. All these buzzwords flying all over the place. There's a company called App Store HQ, which is really trying to be the Google of basically this ASO, which you're trying to tackle, and they're doing some good things. But there's a huge break of connection right now, as we had on the web, between users who want great apps and developers who have great apps, and how do we connect them? And the biggest problem is a developer and app owner saying, all I need to do is develop the app and put it on the App Store and I'll make millions. And that's literally the worst mindset you could possibly have. And I have to literally fight with even the companies that we develop apps for who don't understand this, that it's not just magical to put it on the App Store and automatically it'll go in front of everyone. And the marketing side of that is really, really important, mirroring exactly what he said.
Okay. All right, well, thank you to our panelists. And now we'll open up questions from the floor. Yes.
What are some best practices to utilize and promote your app? You know, so our company just had launched our app. You know, we want it to catch on. What's some advice there as far as getting it out on our website and even publicly?
I mean, long story short, there's no magic bullet. It's tough. You have to have a great mix of, you know, of marketing, of sales. You know, it depends what kind of app it is. You have to make sure you advertise it well. One really great method is actually blogging. I mean, blogging as far as SEO goes. So say I went to the web and I wanted to search for a certain type of app, and I typed it into Google. Google favors blogs a lot, and that gives them, you know, good traction. So I would say blogging is one way to really help you get visibility for your app, because the app stores, the metrics in the app stores right now are A, not great, and B, they're changing so much. Like the algorithms are changing so much right now. What Apple and Android are doing, that it's really hard to understand what they're doing. And this is just what Google dominated with early on. So, you know, it's still tough. You know, old school traditional methods are really the best way to go.
Is there a best way to integrate it into your blog or your website?
I mean, what you really want to do is have great content that reflects your app. And by that, you know, in building a huge Twitter following and Facebook following will really help, because if you post a new blog post and they retweet it out, like that's the kind of viral loop that you really want to, you know, to kind of find. I forget the article, but there's a great one out there about the viral loop, which is one of the strongest marketing tools of all time. Obviously, you know, you guys have watched YouTube videos that go crazy. Tapping into that viral loop is difficult, but man, if you do it, you are breaking it in.
And reach out to similar companies. Like for instance, I made the children's book apps, and then it just happened like there's a company that's all they do is review children's book apps. They're like, oh yeah, you know, we'd like to promote this. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. So I started working with them, and then someone else saw it, and they're like, hey, you know, we see you make book apps. You want to write tutorials for us? Which is actually Ray Wenderlich, who's sponsoring the giveaway here. So then I started writing for him and actually started making money doing that as well. And then he's like, oh, you know, you can do an affiliate program. We'll pay you 30% if you just put a little ad on your blog. So then you can get money that way. And just from making a book, it's somehow like looped around, and like then software companies like, oh, we saw you use our software. Here's this for free. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're making money from your book. You're making connections, and you're getting other stuff for free as well. So just it always helps to reach out. Like even come to something like this, you get out your business card. They're like, hey, I checked out this app as a BlogCon, and that's how you really get going as well.
And to close the loop on that, not just writing your own blog post, but reaching out to other blogs that would cover something like your space, that already have the following, and just, you know, fight tooth and nail to try to get covered by all of them.
Any other questions? Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.